Good morning, my viewers, the parents, the teachers, and students as well. It's another Saturday for easy numbers. And like I was doing last Saturday, I was showing you how to master numbers. And I taught you the numbers between 100 and 1000, provided the center digit was a 0. Multiplying those numbers was the easiest thing to do, and you do any number in that category mentally. 506, I had said, when you multiply that by 306, it would be very, very simple. You multiply left, you multiply right. The left would be 15, 5 times 3, which would be 15, and the right would be 36, which is 6 times 6, and then what you do then, this would be 15. The center is blank. All you do is to cross multiply. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 6 times 5, which is 30, and the total is 48. Put that in the center, and that is your answer. You do not have to go struggling with the things they do in school. This, that, and that. Today, I'm teaching you the squares of the numbers I call triplets in mathematics. The number 3, the number 6, and the number 9. Now I call these 3 numbers triplets. And you are going to be a master of the squares of these numbers at lightning speed. And it does not matter how big the number is going to be, you will still square them at lightning speed. Let us begin by the smaller brother. These are triplets. The number 3. The squares of the number 3, of course, 3 itself squared is equal to a 9. So what I'm saying is that all numbers composed of 3's, their squares will end in 9. But now, when you increase the number of 3's, 33 squared, 333 squared, 3,333 squared, I want you to remember one very important number, the number 10, 8, 9. That number, never ever forget it when you are squaring numbers composed of 3's, and even when you are just multiplying numbers composed of 3's. This is golden knowledge. It is not found in our ordinary textbooks, however beautifully bound they are. This knowledge is lacking. That the squares of 3 will always be 10, 8, 9. And I want you to write down this sentence. That when squaring numbers composed of 3's, the answer is always 10, 8, 9. However, the number of 1's in the answer is always 1 less than the number of 3's being squared. 0 follows 1 in the answer. The number of 8's in the answer is always equal to the number of 1's in the answer. and 9 is always the last digit. If you are squaring n number composed of 3's and 9 is not the last digit, that square is wrong. So let's look at the square of 33. Using our sentence, the answer is always 1089. However, the number of ones in the answer is always one less than the number of 3's being squared. Here we are squaring 2 3's. The answer contains only 1 1. After that, 0 follows 1 in the answer. Then the number of 8's in the answer is always equal to the number of 1's in the answer. We have 1 1 in the answer. We must have only 1 8 in the answer. And 9 is always the last digit of the answer. So put 9 at the end. So the square of 33 is 1089. Now let's increase this number to 333 squared. So in high school, when they are dealing with the powers or the indices, they'll start having a problem squaring this. But here is the thing. The answer is always 1089. However, the number of ones in the answer is always equal to the number of ones in the answer is always one less than the number of 3's being squared. We are squaring 3 3's. The answer contains 2 1's. Then a 0 follows 1 in the answer. The number of 8's in the answer is always equal to the number of 1's in the answer. We have 2 1's in this answer. We must have 2 8's in this answer. And 9 is always the last digit of the answer. Now I taught this to people who have gone before you, and they became masters of numbers, and they have scored so highly in their mathematics. Many of them have finished their universities. And they are still calling me to this day to thank me for making them masters of numbers. Let's take a number slightly bigger than this and say we want 3,333. What is the square of this number? Instead of struggling, grabbing a calculator or scratching your head and all the hair is off, just remember the squares of 3, the answer is always 1089. However, the number of ones in the answer is always one less than the number of 3's being squared. So here we are squaring 4 3's. The answer begins by 3 1's. Always one less than the number of 3's being squared. Then a 0 follows 1. And then when we come to the 8, the number of 8's in the answer is always equal to the number of 1's in the answer. And since we have 3 1's here, the answer must have 3 8's. And as a rule, 9 is always the last digit of the answer. And I invite you to tap on your calculator and see whether I'm telling you the truth or I'm not telling you the truth. Because I want you to be a wizard in numbers, so that whenever you pass in a place, you are stinking numbers. And people start saying, numbers are stinking here. Numbers are stinking here. Yet you are the one passing. You are so much with the numbers that you just stink numbers. Let us increase this number a little. 33,333 squared. If you didn't know the behavior of 3, then you will have to multiply this several times and then add with the possibility of making an error before you get to the answer. But for me, I know the behavior of 3. The answer is always 1089. However, the number of ones in the answer is always 1 less than the number of 3's being squared. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 ones. Then the answer must begin by 4 ones. So that is 1, 1, 1, 1. Then a 0 follows. When it comes to 8, the number of 8's are always equal to the number of ones in the answer. Since I have 4 ones in this answer, I must have 4 8's in this answer. So I put 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally 9 is always the last digit of the answer. You may not be able to read the answer because you are not taught how to read large numbers, but when you know this trick and somebody asks you to square a number with 20 3's, you may not know how to read that number, but you can give a perfect square of that number. By knowing the rule, the answer is always 1089. However, the number of ones in the answer is always 1 less than the number of 3's being squared. 0 follows 1 in the answer. And the number of 8's in the answer is always equal to the number of ones in the answer. And 9 is always the last digit of the answer. So this guy is giving you a number with 20 3's. Just sit back, relax, and tell him the answer will contain 19 ones, a 0, 19 8's, and a 9 as the last digit. Go ahead and calculate it even for 1 week. If you don't come up with that number, then I am not a number wizard. The same thing goes on to numbers that our computers may not be able to handle. But the God-given computer can still handle. What is the square of a number with 100 3's? Then you quickly say the answer is 99 ones, a 0, 99 8's, and a 9. And that number is way beyond our reading capacity. You need to have studied numbers in depth to be able to read that number. But that is the answer. So, remember the squares of 3, the number 1089. And why am I saying it's always 1089? The reason is simple. When you ask a stammerer, this guy who has a problem in pronouncing words, and tell him to pronounce for you the figure 1089, he will of course stammer his way into pronouncing it. And therefore, he will say here 1089. And the longer it becomes, is the more he stammers. 1089. And he stammers through, but gets to the answer. And this is what I do in the classroom. And children burst into laughter as I stammer my way into the answer. And because I know the brain loves something that tickles it, when a child is tickled and laughs around, that child will never forget that knowledge. And that is how we have built geniuses in this country. By tickling the brains of a child forgets nothing. Last weekend I told you that the reason why we can narrate a whole movie and yet we did not go to watch the movie with a notebook to take notes is because the movie has very interesting scenes and it tickles your mind. And because the mind is tickled, it remembers everything that is in the movie. So the secret of learning, my colleague teaches, is look for a way to make the brains of a child be tickled. The child won't forget what you are teaching. So the squares of numbers composed of 3s is a stammering number. 1089. That's all. Remember the number 1089, you are home and dry. Let me move to the second number, 6. 6 is another number that behaves in the same way as 3. Now I told you there are triplets. When you are squaring a number composed of 6s, remember the number 43. Sorry, our pens are not working well, but we'll see. Remember the number 43, 56. These are the squares of 6. Of course, 6 alone would be 36. It must end in 6. If you have a number squaring and it does not end in 6, then that number is not a square of 6. Just know that it's not a square of 6. So the number to remember is 43, 56. When you have 66 to square, then you have the answer 443, 556. When you have a number 666 to square, sorry, this one is that, and this one is 443, 556. When you have 6,666 to square, the answer is 443,555,6. The behavior of this number is exactly like the 3 I've taught you. And this is another stammering number. But the rules are the same. When you square numbers composed of 6s only, the answer is always 4356. 4356. However, the number of 4s in the answer is always 1 less than the number of 6s being squared. 3 follows 4 in the answer, and the number of 5s in the answer is always equal to the number of 4s in the answer. And 6 is always the last digit of the answer. You know, the same formula as we square 3s is the one we use for squaring 6s. But the numbers we remember, for 3 we remember 1089, but for 6 we remember 4356. So that if somebody gives you 5 6s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squared, you should have no problem giving the answer. There are 5 6s. The answer contains 4 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then a 3. The number of 5s must be equal to the number of 4s in the answer. So you have 4 5s. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 6 is always the last digit of the answer. All you do is to sector the number and continue reading it as 4,444,355,556. And this pattern goes on infinitely. So that if somebody gave you a number with 36s, what is the square of a number with 36s? Your answer is, the answer contains 29 4s. A 3, 29 5s, and a 6. So it's up to him to go and read what that size of a number is. According to you, you have given the answer. You should not struggle with squares of numbers like 3, numbers like 6, at all. You only memorize one sentence, which is the same for 3, for 6, except that it differs in the digit. So for 3, the answer will always be 1089, and for 6, the answer will always be 4356. And why do I say it's 4356? It is because when you ask a stammerer, this guy who has a problem in speaking words, to read for you the number 4356, then he will be 56. Stammer your way. The squares of 3s are stammering 1089. The squares of 6 are stammering 4356. And you should have no problem to find the answer of what is the area of a square piece of land whose lengths are 3,333. So it's 1089, that would be the answer. But how many threes are we dealing with? We are dealing with 4 threes. Therefore, the ones will be 3. A 0, and then the 8s will be again 3, and a 9 will be at the end. Mental, mental, mental. This is building your power. The reason why we are building power is that the mind is the only thing that we depend on in the future. Machines, gadgets, calculators might go wrong somewhere. Either it is faulty or the gadget, you have touched the wrong key. And because it doesn't tell you that, no, you are touching the wrong key, it just gives the answer you have touched. The brain will always give you that answer correctly. Finally, let me talk about the bigger brother, 9. I told you that those are triplets. They have the same behavior. The number 9 behaves exactly the same as the number 3 and the number 6. So of course 9 squared will be 81. But when you say 99 squared, it will be 9801. And when you say 999 squared, the answer will be 998001. And when you say 9,999 squared, then the answer is 9998001. And even when you go to 99,999 and you say you want it squared, these are 5 9s. The answer contains 4 of them. 999800001. So let's talk about this pattern again. The number to remember when you are squaring 9s is the number 9801. That's the number you lock in your head the rest of your life. 9801. When you are squaring numbers composed of 9s, the answer is always 9801. However, the number of 9s in the answer is always 1 less than the number of 9s being squared. Then 8 follows 9 in the answer, and the number of zeros in the answer is always equal to the number of 9s in the answer. And finally, 1 is always the last digit of the answer. So try all the 9s you can. The answer is 9801. But it is a stammering number, like I've told you before. So instead of stammering as for 3, 10, 8, 9, or for 6, for 3, 56, for 9, you will stammer still, but stammer 9801. So these 3 behave in the same way. And 9 is the bigger brother, 6 is the middle brother, and 3 is the smaller brother. I call them triplets. The knowledge of these numbers is so important in mathematics. So I want to repeat again, all the squares of numbers composed of 3s will be 1089. However, the number of ones in the answer will always be 1 less than the number of 3's being squared. 0 will follow 1. Then the number of 8's in the answer will always be equal to the number of 1's in the answer. And 9 will always be the last digit of the answer. When it comes to 6, the answer will always be 4356. However, the number of 4's in the answer will always be 1 less than the number of 6's being squared. Then 3 will follow 4 in the answer. And the number of 5's in the answer is always equal to the number of 4's in the answer. And 6 is always the last digit of the answer. Then when we come to 9, the answer will always be 9801. However, the number of 9's in the answer will always be 1 less than the number of 9's being squared. Then 8 will follow 9 in the answer. And the number of 0's in the answer will be equal to the number of 9's in the answer. And 1 will always be the last digit of the answer. These are the way we master numbers. And as you can see, last time we did 1, today we have done 3, we have done 6 and 9. We are starting to master numbers as they are. And how they are used in mathematics will be in that small book. You will find the Master of Numbers, a very, very small book with very big knowledge. The knowledge you don't find in that huge book, well bound and costing thousands. This small book. The brain is a small part of the body. So you give it something, its equivalent. But the brain thinks big, bigger than anything else. So equip yourself with the Master of Numbers by getting those small books. They are Master of Numbers Book 1, Master of Numbers Book 2, Master of Numbers Book 3, and finally, Master of Numbers Book 4. They are not available in our normal bookshops. So don't look for them there. I'll give you a phone number which is on the screen. You call me and see how you find them. And why am I saying that students must be masters of numbers? The reason is that mathematics is the blood life of everything. You will not be that person you want to be if you don't understand mathematics. If you don't understand numbers, you will not be that person. To be an engineer, you will need to understand mathematics. And mathematics is nothing but numbers. To be a lawyer, you will still have to understand mathematics. Because you have to keep the accounts of your clients. You must know client X paid me so much and client Y paid me so much. Client X still owes me so much. Client Y has cleared or still owes me so much. Even if you are in the pulpit as a bishop, mchungaji, you still depend on numbers. Read Mark 2, verse 1 to 3. You're dealing with numbers. You will have to understand numbers. You are a chemist, you are a biologist, whoever you are, numbers. That's why I say mastering numbers is mastering your life. And mastering numbers will help you understand the numbers of the universe that we talked in the whole of December holidays, which you can now increase your knowledge by just getting the book, The Universe and Man, and you learn from it more and more. So, parents, make sure our children are well equipped for the future. And now going back to the classroom, the people who are in primary up to grade 9 need a book they call CBC Primary Mathematics Revision. Whether that child is in class 5, 6, or 7, or in grade 8 or grade 9. That is a very, very important book. It has the basics of the mathematics for primary. It's well revised, and a child can follow. CBC Primary Mathematics Revision. That small book here. You need to get it. So once a child has CBC Mathematics Revision, the primary mathematics is conquered. Then after that, you need to add this child what I call the 21st century mathematics formula. Because you will not do mathematics without a formula. All these numbers are the ones that convert a formula into something workable. So get the mathematics formula for primary. And then those who are in high school, starting from grade 9, which I used to be Form 1. Then you need what we call mathematics notes. Some people think that mathematics is not a reading subject. Take it from me that mathematics must be read. So when in Form 1 or grade 9, you need Form 1 mathematics notes. When you are in Form 2, you need mathematics notes for Form 2. And when you are in Form 3, you need mathematics notes for Form 3. And finally, when you are in Form 4, you need mathematics notes for Form 4. And I will advise the parents, many schools have not had these notes. So ask your child, if they did not have these notes in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, and is at Form 4, it is advisable to buy for the child a complete set of the mathematics notes. Let him have Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. This will be an A that we are building in your child. And because your child is your future, and your child is your fallback position, you must make your fallback position comfortable. Children are very important in families. And children raise their mothers and their fathers to a very, very high level. But this is only if you, the parent, have spent in the child's education. Because they say the roots of education are bitter, but the fruits are very, very sweet. So these are the roots. You have to spend to equip your child with those. And when he's a master's or a PhD and so on, wherever he is, you will be a very happy person. As old as you may be, with your fimbo, you struggle entering that, the latest Prado. Unaona huyo mzee ndio baba Dr. fulani. That's pride. When your child is being lifted shoulder high for performing the best in the country or in the school, every news reporter is dashing to ask you questions on how you handled this child. It is pride. All the screens are flashing you and all the radios are flashing you. This is done by investing into the child. Go ahead and invest into the child. Now you can also get some books on other subjects. There is the high school English notes, which I recommend even for primary, because English is the media of communication on all subjects that are tested except Kiswahili. So if a child doesn't understand English, just see the difficulty he has to cover the other subjects. So English notes for high school is also good for primary, because when we say yes, whether we are a PhD or a grade 1, we are saying the same thing. When we say no, a grade 1 means the same thing as a PhD fellow. So English is one very friendly language that goes across the board. Parents, make sure your children have the English notes at all levels, because all subjects are tested in English, and except Kiswahili, which is tested in Kiswahili itself. And the parents who want other subjects like physics, chemistry, biology, and so on, they can still talk to me. I can secure other very supplementary but very important reading materials for them to enhance their knowledge. And most importantly now is that we take these children to school so that when they finish, they are able to become so and so or so and so. This book, The Universe and Man, will give you the exact careers your child should be looking for to succeed. Because the universe has governing laws, and if you don't harmonize with those laws, you do not succeed very well. So in here, the careers of the children will be given depending on when your child was born. Children born in the same family but on different dates may be of different careers. So that's what they call a calling. What is the calling for your child? You will find in the book, The Universe and Man. Take your child to school while he knows what is the calling for him. And that depends just not on what the career advisors give the child, but on the cosmic rhythm in which the child was born. It's governed by the date of birth. And you, parent, know when your child was born. So find out his calling and encourage him to study towards that. He will be a very successful person in life. But at the same time, the careers that you do in adult, you want to be a farmer, it will tell you when and when not to buy livestock, when and when not to plant seeds in the ground. Because some people just keep saying, I planted my maize with the NAFLA, and now NAFLA has harvested better than I've done. And I put all the fertilizers and so on. The difference is on the day when you inject the seed in the ground. That book will tell you. So I want parents to get in touch with me, and we uplift our children, because our children are our future. If we don't raise our children, we are not raising our future. We will suffer in the future because we did not look after our children today. So get in touch with me on telephone number 0721 901 429. Telephone 0721 901 429 as I leave the studio, and will tell you where to get all these books. Don't look for them in the bookshops. They are not there. They are available only with me. Until next weekend, it's bye-bye from Dr. Kundo.